Hi everyone, my name's Stephen MacDonald and this is my informative speech presentation. I'll be doing mine on the growth of the sport of lacrosse, and the idea here is that the sport of lacrosse is really at its highest point in history, and I'll briefly talk about different fundamental ideas of the game such as men's versus women's lacrosse, as well as where the term lacrosse even comes from, just to kind of give you guys some background on the sport a little bit so you can kind of move ahead with me as we go through this presentation. But in the men's versus women's game, men have more contact, which leads to the need for more equipment such as chest pads and helmets, whereas the girls' game has very little contact, so they only use protective goggles to cover their eyes, but the goalies do actually wear full padding since they're the ones being shot at. The positions are the same in both games: the goalie, defense, midfield, attack. I personally played midfield. The men play 10 against 10, and the women play 12 against 12. Now, the word lacrosse is actually a French term to describe the sticks that are used, which are the crosse. So now that you know a little bit more about the sport, let's see how the sport has grown over the years. So lacrosse is seeing a drastic increase in participation across the country, and according to US Lacrosse, lacrosse has seen an increase in participation by 225% from 2001 to 2017, and according to another source, Statista, about 442,000 participants out of about 829,000 in total were playing at the youth level in 2018, so that's about 53% of all participants. And the professional leagues, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes, are putting an emphasis on youth involvement in the sport, really trying to grow it at the youth level and kind of promoting the next generation of lacrosse. So now that we know that the sport is becoming more appealing to Americans and American youth, what about those dreams that we all have of becoming a professional athlete? So the sport of lacrosse is receiving a ton of attention, probably the most anywhere else, at the professional level. And as of 2019, there are now 3 professional lacrosse leagues in the United States and including parts of Canada. So the National Lacrosse League is the only indoor pro league, while the Major League Lacrosse, or MLL, and the Premier Lacrosse League, PLL, are competing to be the top outdoor game currently in pro lacrosse. From a fan engagement standpoint, fan engagement through social media is really what's kind of driving this growth of the sport at pretty much every level right now, because during the 2-week quarantine 2020 season that the PLL held back in July, they had 2.65 million fan engagements on Instagram alone this season in 2 weeks. Their broadcasts on NBC and NBCSN had an average viewership increase of 33% from 2019 to 2020, and the championship game alone saw an increase in viewership of about 23%. So in conclusion, guys, lacrosse is easily at its highest point in history right now, especially here in America. And there's a few things that I touched on here in this presentation that are driving this growth across the country. The first is putting an emphasis on the youth levels and encouraging a love for the game. I've been fortunate enough to partner recently with my local youth lacrosse organization to begin volunteering as a coach there to kind of continue that momentum in promoting youth lacrosse. And the other thing was that the pro leagues are getting increased TV and social media exposure, which is definitely helping as well. Social media has been a huge factor in promoting the sport of lacrosse at both the collegiate and professional levels on down to the youth levels as well. So that is it for my presentation on the growth of lacrosse. Thanks, guys.